Well, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. It is my pleasure this afternoon to introduce two speakers to you who will present, no doubt, some very, very interesting talks for our consideration. Our first speaker will be Nancy Secrest from America, but now living in Adyar. Our second speaker will be Pradeep Gohil, who is currently General Secretary of the TOS in India. But first to Nancy. So I'll just read her biodata. Has had a very interesting and varied life. She began studying metaphysics and comparative religion in childhood. She encountered Theosophy in her early 20s and joined the Theosophical Society in 1980. She served as National Secretary of the Theosophical Society in America from 1988 through to 1990. She is a certified public accountant by profession. Nancy subsequently served as National Treasurer of the Theosophical Society in America for 18 years. She is currently the International Secretary of the Theosophical Order of Service.
Treasurer.
It's okay? From 2017, she has served as the International Treasurer, currently living in Adyar. So with that very interesting background, Nancy, I introduce her to you, who will speak on the topic very dear to our hearts of the TOS, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard. Good afternoon. Annie Besant, the second president of the Theosophical Society, announced the founding of the Theosophical Society Order of Service and published its provisional constitution in the February 1908 supplement to the Theosophist. This document stated its purpose and set forth a structure of governance. It began, I hereby constitute an order to be called the TS Order of Service, under the Constitution of which leagues may be formed for any special purpose on which a group of members is agreed. The Provisional Constitution of the TOS outlined an organization of leagues. Within 3 years, there were over 60 recorded leagues around the world. They focused on such issues as animal welfare, education for the poor, the promotion of Braille, temperance and prison reform, and in India, the abolition of child marriage. Besant herself was a card-carrying member of the Animal Welfare League, and I was delighted to find this certificate of her membership in our archives. The document also acknowledged that the Besant had founded the organization at the behest of members who wanted to put the first object of the society into action, to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. This is still true today and is one of the main reasons for the existence of the TOS. Then, in the March 1908 issue of the Theosophist, Besant acknowledged that her inspiration for founding the TS Order of Service might be found in an article written by a master of the wisdom and printed by HPB in an early number of Lucifer. The master's article, entitled Some Words on Daily Life, said, Theosophy should not represent merely a collection of moral verities, a bundle of metaphysical ethics epitomized in theoretical dissertations. Theosophy must be made practical, and it has, therefore, to be disencumbered of useless digressions in the sense of desultory orations and fine talk. Let every theosophist only do his duty, that which he can and ought to do, and very soon the sum of human misery within and around the areas of every branch of your society will be found visibly diminished. Forget self in working for others, and the task will become an easy and a light one for you. Well, the Master's article and members' requests may have been the immediate inspiration and impetus for the founding of the TS Order of Service. Besant herself had a commitment to service since childhood. By the time she became international president of the society, Besant had been a prominent social activist for many years. She worked for the betterment of the poor, for better working conditions, better working hours, safer working conditions, and women's suffrage. Do you know the story of the match girls in England? Annie Besant and others worked on their behalf. They were children and young women who sold matches on street corners to earn a few pennies. The fight concerned the dangerous chemical used in the factories, phosphorus, which gave rise to what was called phossy jaw amongst the factory women. Their jaws were simply eaten away by the phosphorus. The experience Dr. Besant brought to the TS in its formative years was rich, and her writings often spoke of duty, of altruism, of selfless service. Her presidential address of 1907 asked the question, "What of our practice? Our lodges should not be contented with a program of lectures, private and public, and with classes. The members should be known as good workers in all branches of beneficent activity. The lodge should be the center, not the circumference of our work. To the lodge for inspiration and knowledge, to the world for service and teaching." The world was a busy place in the early years of the TOS. The North Pole was reached in 1908 and the South Pole a couple of years later. The first airplane trip was made across the United States. It took 84 days. The World Congress for Women's Rights opened in Amsterdam. King Edward VII of Great Britain met with the Emperor Franz Joseph to advise Germany against aggressive anti-British policies, and there were race riots in Springfield, Illinois, in the United States. In 1910, the 13th Dalai Lama fled Tibet from Chinese troops to the British Indies. Gandhi was at work in South Africa, and in 1922, Portugal approved women's suffrage. When Annie Besant founded the TOS, vast numbers in the populations of England and other countries suffered under the weight of horribly long work hours, meager wages, child labor, oppression of women and those of other races or ethnicities, crime and war or the threat of war. The newly formed TOS leagues worked to alleviate the suffering caused by these and other societal woes. Today, the TOS concept of leagues has given way to project-focused collaboration in its principal areas of concern: education, peace, social services, healing, arts and music, animal welfare, the environment, and emergency relief. The world has changed since 1908, in part due to the efforts of the members of the TS and the TOS who focused on service as spiritual action, lived the first object, and made it practical. The citizens of many countries in today's world enjoy shorter work weeks, better wages, better health care, housing, educational opportunities, and religious freedom than our forefathers. The work continues. There are still places in the world today where some of these basic rights have yet to be realized. But all in all, in many places, the world is a better place today than in years and centuries past. In a talk by Mrs. Diana Dunningham Chapotin in January 2015, she said that, Because the media bring almost instantly into our living room reports of acts of great violence committed on the other side of the world, we have the impression that the world is an increasingly dangerous place to live. In fact, individual and collective violence has been steadily declining over the past 1,000 years. The number of wars and the number of deaths through war all over the world has been going down for many centuries, proportionate to the number of people on Earth. She said that while we need to be careful of statistics, it can be reliably said that today's citizens are far less at risk of being killed or subjected to violence than a century ago, and far, far less at risk than 1,000 years ago. It is also true that because of media, such as television, radio, and the internet, with email and social media access virtually at our fingertips, the planet seems a much smaller place. I am finding for myself that as the world gets smaller in this way, it is easier to see that we all share the same basic needs and have the same basic rights to shelter, food, clean water, opportunities to provide for ourselves and our families, human dignity, respect, justice, freedom, and the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. The smaller the world becomes for us, and the easier it is to connect with each other, the more we understand each other. The more we understand each other, the more apparent the oneness of all life becomes to us. As Annie Besant said, there is no other in this world. Each is a different form, but one spirit lives and moves in all. This is my new favorite Annie Besant quote. When we look at it this way, we know that by serving others, we serve ourselves. We can see that in the TOS service work goes beyond feeding the body or the mind. It is a spiritual path that when trodden conscientiously and selflessly serves the giver as much as the receiver. Immediately after this World Congress, the TOS will hold its 4th International Conference. At the last conference in 2013, we unveiled our handbook, which is given to active workers of the TOS. It contains many useful resources and tools, including our governance document, Principles of Organization. In this document, the TOS's full name, the Theosophical Society Order of Service, is preserved, reflecting the intimate relationship between the TS and the TOS that Annie Besant envisioned. The twofold purpose of the TOS is the same today as at its inception: the unselfish service of the needy and suffering, and the inner transformation of the server. Rada Bernier wrote, "The Theosophical Order of Service was founded by Dr. Annie Besant in 1908 so that the sum of pain in the world may be reduced to some extent at least, and at the same time help its workers to learn through their service and the attention they pay to the quality of their work to purify the mind. The Order of Service has therefore a double purpose. From this point of view, it is not merely the doing of work which is important, but the manner in which it is done and the purity of purpose behind it. Today, the TOS is active in 34 sections of the Theosophical Society, doing humanitarian work based on spiritual concepts. Today, as in the beginning, TOS workers find a joy and a freedom in their work. Let's take a look at some of it. To begin with, you may not know that the TOS has a UN committee. The TS and TOS have supported the UN since its inception in 1945, as well as its predecessor, the League of Nations. In fact, Annie Besant became one of the first members of the League of Nations Union in England. The TOS's UN committee produced a brochure printed in October 2011 outlining the support shown to the UN by every president, every TS president, since Annie Besant. Support for the UN is also shown through local TOS celebrations on UN Day, and our Spanish language coordinator, Fernando Perez Martin, has published more than 30 issues of a newsletter about the UN's actions. One of the service areas shared in common with the by the TOS and the UN is the promotion of peace. In the Philippines, conflict resolution and self-transformation workshops are given to the military and to public servants. In the Ukraine, the TOS Hearts Without Borders projects sends needed items to refugees from the conflict with Russia. Ukrainian members also visit hospitals, bringing food and friendship to injured frontier guards. This slide from back in 2002 shows the use of a billboard ad by the TOS in Chennai to promote tolerance and understanding of the unity of all life. I saw it for the first time just recently. Its poignancy struck me so much that I wanted to share it with you. The work the TOS in Italy has been doing to aid Syrian refugees has inspired much interest and respect, not just in the Theosophical Society, but across the Theosophical movement. The Italian TOS has sent medicine, food, clothing, much-needed footwear, tents, and firewood to those in camps and on the road. Their collaboration with Dr. Ali Nassar, himself a refugee, resulted in the construction of a small pediatric clinic within the camp. There they treat leishmaniasis disease, which affects Syrian children who live in bad conditions due to the war. We also have many groups who run peace meditations. Natural disasters, like war, can displace many people. Unlike other TOS projects that may be limited in scope to the local area group, disaster relief is a concern that we tend to respond to on an international level. In recent years, the TOS worldwide has responded by raising funds to help with cleanup efforts, rebuilding and supplying food and water to those displaced by natural disasters, such as the earthquake in Nepal, and the earthquakes in Italy in August and October of 2016. The Italian TOS is still working to help residents of the area, especially the many elderly who lived in small villages there. We all know of the flooding in Chennai that affected many of our own TOS staff at Adyar. Donations were received from the TS and TOS members around the world, probably including some of you. Then in December 2016, a cyclone hit the area, downing hundreds of trees on the Adyar property and smashing several roofs. Fortunately, no one was injured. Repair work was done this past year on the Garden of Meditation, which is that building on the right. That's its name. And Dr. Devadas, our garden superintendent, his staff, and a small army of casual workers have planted over 1,000 saplings and other plants to replace the lost trees, with more to come. A generous grant from a local Chennai corporation made it possible to upgrade our irrigation system, providing water to the trees and plants with much less physical labor than was previously needed. The U.S. is not immune to natural disasters. TOS members responded quickly with supplies after a tornado hit Oklahoma City a couple of years ago. In August 2016, southern Louisiana in the United States experienced disastrous flooding that dumped more than 3 times as much water on the state as Hurricane Katrina had. Local TS and TOS members helped the victims and delivered supplies purchased with funds donated by our members across the country. Teddy bears, knitted by England, Italian, and French TOS members, I think Australian too, made their way to many children affected by some of these disasters. Psychologists have shown that having a soft and cuddly friend to hang on to during stressful times is beneficial to small children. The TOS in England leads the way in this project. To date, over 20,000 teddies have been knitted in the UK. The International Aid Trust awarded a certificate to the TOS, the Salvation Army, and others upon reaching the 15,000 mark for teddies knitted in the UK. We applaud and congratulate the TOS UK for this astounding accomplishment. Many TOS groups focus their attention on providing or supporting schools, particularly those that teach the children theosophical concepts and virtues. Helping children is close to the heart of many theosophists. Of course, the largest and most successful of these efforts is the Golden Link College in the Philippines. The Golden Link School, established by the Theosophical Order of Service in the Philippines, has been providing transformational education for less privileged children since 2002. 85% of the student body is on scholarship. The school is regarded as a model of theosophy in action throughout the theosophical world. And as you can see in this slide, it says with global donations and current funds, we've raised over $400,000 plus to date. With the Golden Link College, what happens is that members donate to their their national TOS group. They gather this money, and the national TOS sends that to the United States TOS, which is where the Kern Foundation is located. And the Kern Foundation matches these funds up to $20,000 a year. So that is how this has happened, and of course this is still going on. Besides teaching core academics, the school teaches meditation and focuses on developing character, integrity, and self-confidence in its students. At the college level, courses in theosophy are part of the core curriculum. These qualities of character will be communicated to others throughout the students' lives, with the potential of causing positive changes in the world that promote peace and harmony. Did you know that besides giving general donations to the Golden Link College, you can also sponsor individual students? I didn't know that until just recently. The TOS in Canada, for example, sponsors 2 students, Clyde and Jubilee, shown here in this slide. The TOS in Pakistan provides home schools for children, focusing on girls who would otherwise might not be able to get an education. The TOSs in Australia, New Zealand, and Italy all support individual home schools there. It costs $1,100 US dollars a year to support a homeschool. The TOS in Pakistan also provides nursing scholarships to young women. This program was initially run jointly with the UN Women's Group. Now it relies on donations from the TOS and others. It costs $360 US dollars per student per year to fund this program. TOS Pakistan has also begun working with Montessori teacher training. Members there are strong in their resolve to continue with their various programs unimpeded. This is no small matter, as Theosophists in Pakistan have been targeted and killed simply for being Theosophists. The TS was shut down, but the TOS was allowed to continue, and just this past year has again begun presenting programs publicly with emphasis on charity work. The TOS in the USA has provided scholarships to Native American nursing students at the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation's Oglala Lakota College School of Nursing. In the past 6 years, 7 students have received one-year scholarships. Recipients are chosen by the college based on criteria provided by the TOS. The TOS in India also gives scholarships to students helping many young people with their educational needs. The TOS in Finland, along with other TOS groups, this is sensitive. Too sensitive. There. The TOS in Finland, along with other TOS groups, supports the work of the Alcott Memorial Higher Secondary School and the Social Welfare Center at Adyar, Chennai, India. The Alcott Memorial Higher Secondary School was begun in 1894 by Colonel Henry Steele Alcott. It provides, I might add that it is the only remaining TS school. There were more than 200 schools that Alcott started, and this is the only remaining one of those. The Alcott School provides a solid education for underprivileged boys and girls in Adyar, a suburb of Chennai in India. The Social Welfare Center cares for small children from the local area, allowing their parents, mothers specifically, to attend the vocational training center or to go to work. Many other TOS groups, particularly in India, run schools or educational programs for children, and TOS members around the world support the education of many hundreds of others. These include a school in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, sponsored jointly by the French TOS and the Liberal Catholic Church. And the Annie Besant Model School in Rayagada, Orissa, India, is sponsored by the TOS there. This school is also in need of donations for such things as teacher salaries and other operational costs. In September 2016, what I consider to be a momentous event occurred. 45 representatives of 12 TS and TOS schools within India attended the National Conference on Theosophical Education. The conference had as its goals to integrate theosophical principles into the educational philosophy and methodologies of the schools, to elevate the teaching standards of the schools, including the incorporation of English as the medium of instruction, and to plan for long-term sustainability of the schools. Vic Hao Chin of the Philippines led the conference, sharing the methods of the Golden Link College with those present. Since then, teacher trainings have been held at the Alcott School in Chennai and are planned for the school in Rayagada, Orissa, India, and a self-transformation workshop is scheduled for teachers at the headquarters of the Indian section in Varanasi in November of this year. And we learned just recently that the Indian section has gotten back the management of the Besant Education Foundation schools. I think there are 6 of them. Okay, so that's a really positive thing too. The Italian TOS is the major sponsor of an orphanage in India, which they built. They actually built that building in partnership with an Italian bank. They also provided computers for student use. One bright star in the TOS world is our youth group in Tanzania. Getting youth involved in the TS and TOS work is something we all struggle with. But in Tanzania, they have done it. Brazil, too, does outstanding work with youth. Here we see the Tanzanian youth, TOS youth, celebrating with children from the Chanika orphanage, which the TOS there helps to sponsor. In Kenya, the Nairobi TOS gives parties for children living in slum areas. The children are treated to an afternoon of food and fun and a little ice cream, quite a unique treat for them. The Nairobi TOS also provides a library in the sun, under a big tree where children can come to read or be read to by Usha Shah, who heads the Nairobi TOS. One of our members from the U.S. went to Nairobi, Kenya, and the other countries near there a couple of years ago, and she was trying to find the library. Usha had a library, and she was driving back and forth, and she couldn't find this library, and all of a sudden she saw all these children under a big tree, and then learned that this was a library in the sun, no building. Another activity for children was offered by the TOS in Hungary. The Hungarian TOS works closely with the gypsy community there, providing clothing and household items. Here we see local gypsy children enjoying horseback riding, good food, games, and walks in the sun at a summer camp organized by TOS Hungary and held on the land of one of their members. For over 20 years, the TOS in Sweden has sponsored and worked closely with disadvantaged children in Latvia. And the TOS Bangladesh has several times distributed school supplies to needy children. There are homeless everywhere, but TOS programs to assist them seem to be mostly concentrated in the United States, at least the ones that I know about. TOS members in several major cities in the U.S. have been putting together care kits for the homeless. These are gallon-sized Ziploc bags filled with essentials such as snacks, water, new socks, and toiletry items. Some members give their bags a Theosophical twist by adding a copy of Anna Besant's invocation, O Hidden Life, or George Arundale's O Powers of Love. The TOS Healing Network operates around the world. In many places, healing groups get together, usually weekly, to perform a ritual and a healing meditation that calls the devas to assist in healing, or a peaceful transition from this life. Names of those in need of healing are submitted by family or friends and are now shared internationally. Other medically related TOS projects include the issuing of mobility aids, which is the principal project of the TOS in India. The TOS in Puerto Rico collects, cleans, repairs, and sells used goods of all types in a sort of flea market. Then, the proceeds of their sales are used to buy prosthesis or implants for children in Haiti. There are many such children who were injured by falling buildings during the earthquake there, and the prosthesis need to be replaced as the children grow. Animals deserve healing too, or so thought Miss Rosie Ulix of the TOS USA, who began an animal healing network there. The TOS in Hungary has followed suit. We see them here with their mascot, Tobos. I met Tobos a couple of years ago. I hope he's still around and okay. The TOS in Argentina, The TOS in Argentina started its own animal shelter, and in the spirit of ahimsa, several TOS sections, Portugal, Uruguay, and Hungary that I know of, teach vegetarian or vegan cooking classes or have produced DVDs or vegetarian cookbooks. Yesterday, I learned about a new project that the TOS USA is doing, and it has to do with this book, which is entitled How Not to Die. This is a new project in the USA that provides copies of this book, How Not to Die, to members there who wish to learn how to prevent or turn around various illnesses through the use of a plant-based diet. And they are giving these away free to people in the U.S. who want them. They're not doing it outside because of postage costs. But in the U.S., people will be able to get this book. The TOS USA Board has granted funds for several years now to the Beagle Freedom Project, which rescues animals that have been used for laboratory research. They provide necessary veterinarian care to animals that have been released by labs and place them in foster homes until they are adopted into their forever homes. They need to go to foster homes first because they have never known human touch, human love, and they need to get used to people. They've only been used in research. So they do that first, and then they are adopted into forever homes. They have also gotten new laws passed in a few states that require laboratories to give animals they no longer want to rescue organizations so that the animals will have a chance to experience freedom, play, and know what it feels like to be loved and treasured. Usually in situations like that, the animals are simply euphemized. Is that the right word? Euthanized. Thank you. In Chennai, while not a TOS program, the Besant Memorial Animal Dispensary has long been a favorite among TOS groups and individuals when deciding where to donate funds. You may have heard that BMAD, as we lovingly call it these days, recently received a corporate donation that allowed them to rehabilitate their facility and buy much-needed spiritual equipment. Volunteers, and we're talking like 100, you can see the picture there, like 100 young people volunteered to clean up the dog yard and the rest of the facility. 3 years ago, the International TOS declared a worldwide focus on women's issues, which we then extended for 2 more years. We asked TOS sections to sign on to this commitment. Several sections did sign on and are actively supporting women's safety both outside and inside the home. Education for women, equal economic opportunities, and basic human rights. The especially fine work in gender issues of Dr. Deepa Padi and the TOS Bhubaneswar in Orissa region attracted significant support from TOS groups in other countries. Dr. Padi tells that the initiative began when her group went to the then governor of the region and solicited his support to put up billboards to educate people about violence towards women in an attempt to stop it. Since then, they have conducted seminars at workplaces, put on street plays, published a journal with many fine articles about women's issues, and a year or two, I think a year ago, published a book containing a compilation of these other articles. Proceeds from the sale of the book, Yes, She Can, go towards projects for destitute women. They even conducted karate classes for young women in orphanage. In Kenya, women are being taught various skills, such as hairdressing and manicure, in order for them to help support themselves and their families. The Alcott Education Society's Women's Vocational Center, while not a TOS program, is a shining example of providing poor women with skills that will help them to be more independent and to help provide for themselves and their families. The center teaches tailoring and weaving and has a big supporter in the person of Mrs. Lily Boyd, I might add. Also, TOS groups in the USA and France help to support shelters for abused women. The men are not forgotten in Kenya. The TOS works with a local landscaper there to train young men to design and maintain gardens and other landscapes. A member from the USA put us in touch with an organization called Mushrooms for Ghana. This organization helps to ease protein deficiency starvation in the West African country of Ghana, while helping farmers there, who are mostly women, find new levels of prosperity and economic stability. Farmers are trained to grow oyster and shiitake mushrooms, both high in protein. The TOS is active in 34 countries, doing humanitarian service work based on spiritual concepts. Here are some of them. So we see Spain, Ukraine, TOS Italy, Hungary, England, France. And next time I give this talk, if you want your picture up there, send me a picture of your group. I want you to know that the International TOS is here to help and support you in your own service endeavors, whether in your private lives or within the TOS or the TS. The TOS has resources available on its website and people willing to listen to you and share ideas. The TOS's whole reason for existence is to make theosophy of transformative value in the world and in the life of the individual seeker. We all need to work together in the service of all that suffers. And in order to end with a vision and a goal, as Cassie told us just a little bit ago, our vision for TOS is to have this work done to the point where we are no longer needed. That's the vision. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you.